There are some stories that settle deep within your bones. They aren't the kind you hear around a campfire for a cheap thrill. No, these are different. They are the quiet, persistent whispers of real life. Tales of events so strange, so unsettling that they defy all explanation. They are the stories of ordinary people who, one day, found themselves at the heart of an extraordinary and often terrifying mystery. These are the cases that time forgot, but the human mind cannot. They linger in the shadows of history, their edges blurred by speculation and fear, their conclusions lost to the silence. We're drawn to these stories, not just for the puzzle they present, but for the profound questions they ask about the world we think we know. What happens when the veil of normalcy is torn away, revealing something cold and inexplicable underneath? What do we do when the facts lead not to an answer, but to an even deeper darkness? These are the accounts of lives interrupted, of questions that echo through the decades without a reply. Tonight, we will walk through the unsettling stillness of 3 such cases. We won't find easy answers here. Instead, we will explore the details, feel the weight of the unknown, and confront the unsettling truth that some mysteries are not meant to be solved. They are meant to haunt us, to remind us of the fragility of our own understanding, and the vast dark spaces that lie just beyond the light of our comprehension. Prepare yourselves. The journey into these shadows is a long one. In the heart of Bavaria, far from the noise of the city, there once stood a small, isolated farmstead, Hinterkaifeck. The name itself now carries a chill. In the winter of 1922, it was home to the Gruber family, a quiet, hard-working family living a life dictated by the seasons. But as the snows of March began to melt, a deep unease settled over the farm. It began subtly, as most terrors do. Footprints, leading from the dense forest to the house, none leading away, as if a visitor from the woods had simply vanished into the walls of the home. Andreas Gruber spoke of it to his neighbors. Strange noises in the attic, a rhythmic thumping above their heads, a newspaper in the house from a city he had never visited. The house keys vanished, quiet, deliberate intrusions, a tightening knot of dread, the feeling that they were no longer alone. The maid who had worked for them months earlier, she fled, claiming the house was haunted. Her stories were dismissed, but her fears began to seem like grim premonition. They tried to carry on, to ignore the sense of being watched. On the last day of March, the silence broke. Andreas, Kazilia, Victoria, Kazilia, Joseph, lured into the barn. The mattock, a common farm tool. The violence was brutal, methodical. The new maid, Maria Baumgartner, slain in her bed. For 4 days, an eerie calm returned to Hinterkaifeck. Smoke still curled from the chimney. The livestock were still fed. The dog was still tied in the yard. The killer did not flee. They stayed. They lived among the bodies, tending the farm. When the bodies were discovered, the scene was incomprehensible. The community paralyzed by fear. Investigations turned up nothing. Theories swirled like Bavarian snow. The perpetrator vanished as those first footprints did. 6 souls and a century-old question, unanswered. Some people disappear from the world in a storm of violence and chaos. Others simply slip away. Maura Murray was a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. Bright, athletic, by all accounts a normal young woman with a future ahead of her. But in the days leading up to February 9th, 2004, her life took a strange, almost imperceptible turn. She packed her car with textbooks. She packed her car with clothes. She packed her car with alcohol. She emailed her professors, telling them of a death in the family, a death that had not occurred. Then she started driving north. Her destination was unknown. Her reasons, a complete mystery. She drove through the fading light of a New England winter afternoon into the rural heart of New Hampshire. On a sharp, dark corner of Route 112, the wild Ammonoosuc, her Saturn sedan spun out and crashed into a snowbank. It was not a severe accident. A passing school bus driver, a man named Butch Atwood, stopped to help. He saw a young woman, cold but seemingly uninjured. She told him not to call the police. She insisted she had already called for roadside assistance. Butch Atwood drove the short distance to his home and called the police anyway. He was worried. It was a cold night, and she was alone on a deserted stretch of road with poor cell service. The call was logged at 7:46. By the time the first sheriff's deputy arrived on scene, somewhere between 7 and 10 minutes later, the car was there, locked, the windshield was cracked, the airbags deployed, A box of wine was spilled on the passenger side, but Maura Murray was gone. There were no footprints in the snow leading away from the car except for those of the officer. The surrounding woods were dense and deep, a formidable wilderness, especially at night. Had she accepted a ride from a passing stranger? The timeline is incredibly tight. In that brief window between Butch Atwood leaving and the police arriving, Maura vanished from the face of the earth. She left her car, she left her phone, she left her credit cards. She took nothing with her into the cold New Hampshire night. The search began immediately, but the landscape was unforgiving. Dogs lost her scent 100 yards down the road, a detail that fueled the theory she got into another vehicle. But who was driving it? Was it someone she knew? A secret rendezvous she had planned? Or was it a predator who just happened to be on that dark road at that precise, fateful moment? The lack of any struggle, any evidence of foul play at the scene, only deepened the confusion. It was as if she had simply evaporated. In the years since, her case has become an obsession for an army of online sleuths. Every detail of her life has been scrutinized. Every possible theory debated endlessly. Was she running from a secret? Did she stage her own disappearance to start a new life? Or did she succumb to the elements, lost and disoriented in the vast white mountains? The questions pile up, one on top of the other, forming a monument to her absence. Her family is left waiting, suspended in a state of unknowing. Maura Murray drove into the darkness, and the darkness simply never gave her back. In November of 1970, in the remote Isdalen Valley of Norway, a place locals called Death Valley, a university professor and his two young daughters were hiking. They were drawn by a strange, acrid smell like, burnt cloth. Following the scent, they made a discovery. Hidden amongst the rocks was the charred body of a woman. Her posture was strange, what police called the fencer's pose, indicative of being burned alive. The scene was meticulously, unnervingly staged. Forensic investigators descended upon the valley, but every clue they uncovered only led to more questions. The woman's body was burned beyond recognition, but it was the items around her that were truly baffling. A bottle of St. Halvard liqueur, a packed lunch, sleeping pills, some consumed, some scattered. But most strangely, all the labels from her clothing had been deliberately cut away. Her fingerprints had been sanded off. Every possible marker of her identity had been systematically erased, as if she were a ghost even before the fire. The first break in the case came from the Bergen train station. 2 suitcases were found in a locker, traced back to the mystery woman. Inside, investigators found a collection of wigs, non-prescription glasses, maps, and several pads of paper containing coded messages. They also found clothing, but just as with the clothes on her body, every single identifying label had been removed. It was a masterclass in anonymity. The woman had gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure no one would ever know who she was. As police began to piece together her movements, the puzzle grew even more complex. They discovered she had traveled all over Norway and across Europe using at least 9 different false identities, complete with fake passports. She was Genevieve Lancier from Louvain, Claudia Tielt from Brussels, Vera Jarl from Antwerp, and more. She stayed in top hotels, speaking German, French, Flemish, and English. Shopkeepers and hotel staff described her as elegant, well-dressed, and always paying in cash. She was a phantom moving through the continent. Who was this woman? The Cold War was at its peak, and the theory of espionage was immediate and compelling. Was she a spy, betrayed by her agency, or hunted by an enemy? The coded notes, the multiple identities, the erased past, it all fit the profile. Others suggested she was involved in some form of international crime. A darker, more tragic theory proposed a calculated, ritualistic suicide, a final act of self-obliteration. But no theory could account for all the bizarre, conflicting evidence. To this day, her true name remains unknown. She is known only as the Isdal woman, named for the valley that claimed her. Her case file is a labyrinth of dead ends and contradictions. The coded notes have been partially deciphered but offer no clear answers. Her dental work was unique and expensive, suggesting a background of some wealth, yet no family ever came forward. She exists only as a collection of forensic oddities and haunting questions, her identity as scorched and lost as her body. A haunted farm in Bavaria, a lonely road in New Hampshire, a desolate valley in Norway, 3 different places, 3 different times, all bound by the same thread of impenetrable mystery. Hinterkaifeck, Maura Murray, Isdal woman, are not just cold cases, they are voids. They are gaps in our reality, where the logic we rely on simply falls away, leaving us adrift in a sea of speculation. We search for answers, for a perpetrator to blame, for a motive to understand, because the alternative is too unsettling to consider. The alternative is that sometimes there is no answer. Sometimes the darkness wins. These cases remind us that for all our advancements, for all our science and our reason, the world remains a place of deep and abiding strangeness. People can vanish, violence can erupt from nowhere, identities can be erased like chalk on a blackboard. The truth we seek so desperately may not be a neat conclusion, but a fractured, terrifying glimpse into the unknown, a place where the rules we live by no longer apply. These stories will stay with you, long after the screen fades to black. They become a part of the quiet noise in the back of your mind, a reminder of the questions that have no reply. They are a testament to the lives that were lost and the silence they left behind. 3 cold cases, countless questions. Some doors should never be opened, but the truth waits in the dark.